Hi, welcome back to my channel, Fabulously Frugal and Fancy. I'm Brandy. Today's video is a little bit different for me. We are going to be in the kitchen. Every Christmas, I make a candy that is called a Buckeye. And somebody asked me for the recipe this year, and I decided to go ahead and film it. And I figured I could share it with all of you as well, because some of it, even though you have the written recipe, it kind of needs a little explanation just to get the right consistency. So if you've never had a Buckeye, you would you need to try one. Just a little disclosure, they do have peanut butter, so if you have a nut allergy, this is not something for you. But it takes a little bit of time, and for me, it takes a lot of time because I make quite a bit of these, make about 1,000 of them every year or more, depending on who wants them that year. So they make great gifts, but just a wonderful treat. I got the recipe from my great aunt. She has made them for years, and she's always given them as gifts. And then when I moved away after college, I didn't get any more, so I got her recipe and I started making them. Even when I lived in Hawaii, I made these, and I still have people who live in Hawaii now who still would like to get them from me. And I obviously can't ship them to Hawaii because they would melt. They are chocolate. So if you would like to try to make these, they're pretty easy if you're making a small batch. My recipe is on the larger scale, but you can easily cut it back to make, however few or many you want to make. I'm going to show you a fourth of my recipe because like I said, I make like 1,000 of them. So just be aware of that. When I'm making it, I'm making a recipe that will make about 250. So if you want to cut that way back, totally up to you. You could just take what I do and cut it down, and you will be able to make a smaller batch of these just to try them or to have them at your holiday party. Now, let's get into the kitchen and do some fabulous Buckeyes.
So I always use Jif peanut butter. I find it to be the best. Powdered sugar. I took pictures of these so you can see the sizes I used, but check out the recipe in the description box below. So I used Jif peanut butter, and again, I made quite a bit of these. This is a very large recipe that I'm showing you. It makes about 250, and I made 4 times that many. So I ended up with about 1,500 Buckeyes this year. So I made quite a bit, but you use I use one whole jar of these large jars. I get this double pack at BJ's. I find the best prices there for that. I just use a spatula, and I just dig out the peanut butter. I use the entire jar. I put the entire jar in there. Now I will tell you, recipes that you find online will say that you can use an electric mixer. I have never been able to use an electric mixer to make Buckeyes. You just have to be prepared to get your hands dirty. Covered in peanut butter, covered in butter, covered in sugar, because that is the only way that I can ever get them to mix. I've tried a mixer, it just does not work. First of all, it gets way too clumpy, and second of all, it can break your whole mixer because it just does not want to mix this much peanut butter. If you do a smaller portion, I'm sure you could use an electric mixer, but I use 4 jars of peanut butter, 4 bags of the confectioner's sugar, actually, yeah, 4 bags of that, and I used 3 of the really large bags of chocolate chips to cover them all. So, and yes, you see me licking my finger there. I actually cut out the part where I go wash my hands in just a few minutes because I do scrub my hands probably 10 times during this process, but I just didn't show all of that. This is Domino sugar. Again, I got it at BJ's. It's a 4-pound bag. It's the best deal there. I use about half the bag at first, and then I use the country crock. I prefer the country crock. Some recipes will just call for butter. I believe the country crock gives the best consistency, as does the Jif peanut butter. Now, I've tried it with several different types of peanut butter over the years. I've made this recipe many times, and every single time the Jif peanut butter, even over Skippy or any other brand, the Jif peanut butter makes the best Buckeyes. Then, like I said, you just got to be ready to get your hands dirty. I just put my hands down in there. I use both hands, and I just knead it until everything is well mixed. And you just have to keep at it. I have this sped up double time. So what you're seeing is actually half the time that it takes me to actually mix one bowl. And again, I made 4 of these, four big bowls full of the dough, and about 1,500 Buckeyes total. But I give these as gifts. Everybody loves them. I don't live in or around Ohio, so they're not very common up here, but people here in Massachusetts love them, and so I make them and give them to family, friends, neighbors, anybody that wants some. Get some Buckeyes because they are not something you can get here, and everybody seems to love them. So you will see how sticky this is at first, and then I had somebody else in the house come over and dump some more of the sugar in there because you have to have that. I didn't want to wash my hands for a third time, so I just had somebody else come over and help me and dump in the rest of the powdered sugar out of this bag. And well, she did part of it, and then I'll add the rest of it later on. So I do use that whole bag of powdered sugar. When you're making this dough, you don't want it to stick to your hands. You want it to be, firm enough to stick together, but not sticky to where it sticks to your hands. If it's too sticky, you need to add more powdered sugar. If it's too dry, you need to add more butter. And if it's dry, it'll crumble when you try to make your peanut butter balls. So you don't want it to crumble, and you don't want it to be sticky. Neither one of those will dip well into the chocolate later on. Even if it's frozen, if it's too sticky, you'll never be able to hold them together. Once you dip them in the melted chocolate, they will fall apart. So you want it to be completely moist and not dry, but not sticky either. And that's why I decided to make a video, because it is a little bit tricky to find that perfect consistency. And believe it or not, it just takes, feeling it out. Like I said, if it's too dry or too sticky, once you put it into the melted chocolate after it's frozen, you're not going to be able to, they're going to fall apart and you're going to wonder what's wrong. So if it's sticking to your skin, it's too sticky. So I go back over to wash my hands again. Sorry about that. I thought I cut that part out and I didn't. But in fact, I know I had cut out a portion of that, but I guess I cut out the wrong portion. Sorry about that. So this is what it looks like, and you want to be able to, just like Play-Doh, you want to be able to put it together. But see, if I hold it up to the light, you can see that it is not dry. It is moist. And that is because of the butter that I added into it. So, and see, I did think I cut that part out, but here we go again. You just want to put it into your hand and roll it into a ball. This one that I'm showing you here is a little large for a Buckeye, but I wanted to show you how moist it is and not dry at all. So you want to you want to get all of those, all of that mixed up really well. Then you want to get a container and some parchment paper. Some recipes will tell you to go ahead and just put the toothpicks in it now before you freeze it. I make way too many of them to do that. If you are making a small portion, you can do that. I just find it easier to do it the way that I do it here, where that means to just get a piece of parchment paper. I have some of these large containers, and I will literally, one of these containers holds between 250 and 300 Buckeyes. So for my recipe, I ended up using 4 of these containers. So if you are making a smaller batch, you can do that in smaller containers. But it doesn't work that well for me that way because I'm making so many. So I just line the bottom with parchment paper. You don't necessarily have to put them in the bottom. I do. You just want to get a size. You don't want them to be too large and you don't want them to be too small. None of my Buckeyes come out the exact same size. And to be honest with you, the longer I'm making the peanut butter balls, the more varied in size they get. It's, here's the bottom row that I did, and you can see the different sizes there. Then you want to separate each row with a piece of parchment paper. And then I just, again, take some of the peanut butter dough and I smash it up in my hand. Again, get ready to have dirty hands, because there's no spooning this out or scooping this out. You have to pack it firmly. And if it starts to crumble in your hand, just remash it all up together. Get you a big handful and mash it all up together until it's the right consistency again. And so I just continue to roll one ball at a time until I have all of these containers full. You want to put them in the freezer. The recipe says about 30 minutes. I froze them overnight because it took me so long to do those. Then I had to get dinner ready. So the next day, I take, this is golf wax. This is a little bit of the candy wax that you want to get. You don't use very much of this. And honestly, one of these boxes lasts me several years of making Buckeyes, because I didn't even use half of one bar, and there's 4 bars in there. So I use it's about a fourth of the block. I cut it down. You just kind of want to wedge it in there a little bit, and then you can take the point of the knife and just put it in the middle, and it will completely break apart, as you see here. It's pretty easy to cut, so it's not, you don't have to really jam it. See, about a little less than a fourth actually of the bar. And then I only use about a third of that piece for one bag of the chocolate chips. So as I don't fully run out of the chocolate, this piece that I cut off here is all the wax that I used. You could use a little bit more than that if you want to, but I don't find that I need it. And then I had this large bag of chocolate chips that I bought at BJ's. Again, you save a ton of money buying your supplies at BJ's. I put them in a crock pot. The recipe always says a double broiler. I can't stand at the stove for that long, so I'm able to sit down if I put it in the crock pot. And I find that if I turn it on high for 20 minutes or so, and then I turn it down to low, and then about another 30 minutes, then it's pretty good melted, and then I just turn it to warm to keep it melted. So I'd put one whole bag in there at first, then I'm mixing it up. It's a little, it's pretty hard to mix it at first, and then I add more chocolate chips, and just gets creamier and creamier the more you mix it. And you just keep mixing it in until you don't see all the lumps and bumps, and you don't want to overheat it because it will burn if you're not careful. That's one advantage using a double broiler as opposed to the crock pot. But like I said, if I start it on high and then I turn it down to low about 30 minutes later, and then about 30 minutes after that, I just turn it down to warm. For as many chocolate chips as I am melting, it usually takes about an hour for it to fully melt. And then once it is melted, it is so easy to melt more chocolate chips. So I went ahead and got the second bag and poured, I guess about half of that bag into there. Because it's already so hot, it melts the other chocolate chips like right away. And it's much easier that way than to wait until it's almost empty to add more chocolate, because then it takes more time. If you are doing a smaller batch, you can heat them up in the microwave. You can do a double broiler. Again, this took me, because I made so many, it literally probably took me total probably about 6 to 8 hours to dip all of the peanut butter dough balls into the chocolate. So again, what size, how many you're making depends on how much chocolate you want to melt and how you want to do this. So I'm just stirring it all in there, making sure it's smooth, and then I get some of the peanut butter balls, the dough balls, out of the freezer, and I have a parchment lined tray with some parchment paper. Any tray will work. Whatever works for you, whatever you can get. I'll see my pretty dog back there. She just lays on the floor. She knows I'm cooking and doing stuff that she can't be a part of. And so she just sits there. She's such a good dog. Sorry, I kept this on when I went to go get that out of the freezer, and I had lost one of my lids. So I just put aluminum foil over the top. And I have toothpicks. I took them out of the box and put them in a bowl because it's easier that way. And then you want to dip it. You don't want to cover the whole thing. You want to leave a portion at the top. And sorry, when I put that on the tray, in a minute I realize it's out of frame. So a few minutes later, I do shall be putting them on the tray. I leave the toothpicks in for a while. You want to dip it about 3/4 of the way, just to where there's, some of the peanut butter ball showing. This does make it look like the actual Buckeye nut. And if you're wondering what a Buckeye is, it's a useless poisonous nut. And I know that because when I was a little kid, I was one of the few. We grew up near Cincinnati area, so it was like we lived on the Kentucky side of the border, but I was actually born in Ohio, and my grandpa would tease me and tell me I was a useless poisonous nut. So because I was born on the Ohio side and I was a Buckeye. Again, you just put them on the tray. You want to leave a little bit of space. You don't want the chocolate to be really thick on the bottom. You'll see me spinning those to kind of get off the excess chocolate. I'll even touch the side of the crock pot if there's too much chocolate on there. And then I just put it on the tray. Once I have the tray filled, you can put it in the refrigerator. I have a sunroom in the back of my house that is cool. It's not heated. It's not insulated, so it's like a very cold room. I just set them back there on the tray until the chocolate sets up. Once the chocolate sets up, you are good to go. You can put these in any container that you want and give them away as gifts.
All right, so there are the Buckeyes. Like I said, I am from Ohio originally, Ohio, Kentucky area. Grew up right around the Cincinnati area, sometimes on the Kentucky side of the border when I was a little kid, and then when I was in high school on the Ohio side of the border. But this is a very popular candy in the Ohio area. You'll find them in candy stores and all over the place. But these homemade ones, they are just so much better. My aunt's recipe that I got from her, they come out so well, and I really do love these every year. I've tried her fudge recipe and I cannot replicate it, but these Buckeyes I can actually do. So I do these every year. My mom tends to make the fudge and I make the Buckeyes every year. So it is a treat for everyone in my family, and I make a lot of them because I make them to go home with everybody in my family, especially because everybody in my family has always loved them. And then now in other friends and so forth that I make them for as well. They make a great gift. But they are just delicious and very, very, very sweet and fattening, and that is why I only make them one time a year. They're not necessarily a Christmas treat or candy, but we have always had them at Christmas. And again, it's something you don't want to have all year round. So just wanted to share this family recipe with you so that you could try these Buckeyes. Probably will be my last video before Christmas, so I just wanted to tell you all that I hope you have a very blessed and Merry Christmas. If you are spending time with family, don't worry about the money, don't worry about the gifts, just enjoy your family, enjoy being around your family and spending time with your family. I know that Christmas can be a stressful time of year for people. I try to just let everything go and just be with the family, enjoy the time. I may not have spent a ton of money on everybody. I may not have been able to buy absolutely everybody I wanted to buy a gift for, but it's more about the time with family. And if I can't, give them something, if I can't buy them something, I will try to make something. I can be very crafty, so I can make something, try to do something personal for them in a way. Like I made flower arrangements for my neighbors, just little floral Christmas florals, and gave those to neighbors. So didn't cost me anything because I had the florals, but even if it did cost me something, it would have cost just a few dollars to buy the florals at Dollar Tree or Walmart for $1 or $2 and put them in a container that I collect throughout the year. I find little containers and I make vases and so forth. So even if you can't spend a lot of money, then don't worry about that and just don't let it stress you. Remember that Jesus is the reason for the season, and it is Him that we are celebrating. Just remember to show His love to others, and don't let the stress ruin your holiday season. I hope that you have a blessed Christmas. I hope that you have a blessed New Year, and I will see you back here at the beginning of the year for lots of new fun things. So I hope you have a blessed day and Merry Christmas. Bye.